Hey there, restaurant pros. It's David Scott Peters, and welcome to episode 62 of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I've been coaching restaurant owners since 2003, and the Restaurant Prosperity Formula is based on what the most successful restaurant owners I've worked with do on a daily basis to achieve their success. The basic premise of the formula centers around achieving prosperity, freedom for your restaurant, and the financial freedom you deserve. To achieve prosperity, you have to follow a very specific formula made up of leadership, systems, training, accountability, and taking action. Now, I want to tell you about our guest today, Gina Sidebottom. Gina's family has owned Maria's Mexican restaurant, which was started by her mother Maria in 1992 and is located in Grass Valley in Northern California, where they love serving their community not only great food, but great service. Listen in on our conversation where Gina not only talks about her journey with systems and profitability, gaining free time, but more importantly, how she can help you make your team members feel appreciated, what she does on a daily basis to make that happen, make them want to work for you and stay longer. And the beautiful part about it, it won't cost you a dime. I want to welcome Gina Sidebottom to the show today, but first, a word from our sponsor. This episode is being brought to you by Repeat Returns. If you're a restaurant owner of a medium to high volume independent restaurant, multi-unit or franchise operator, and you're looking for a proven and realistic solution to attract, grow, and retain customers, then you need to visit Repeat Returns. Repeat Returns is a modern marketing platform created by a restaurant owner for restaurant owners. It studies each customer's habits and patterns, predicts the most profitable outcome for your restaurant every single day, and deploys the marketing to make that happen. You'll never lift a finger. To see if Repeat Returns is right for you, visit repeatreturns.com/DSP. I want to welcome Gina to the show today. Gina, welcome. I'm really excited to have you here. As people may not know, you and I just discussed, it's taken me about a year and a half to get you to do this podcast because it's not your favorite thing to do is get on a YouTube channel or a podcast to say, here, let me talk about myself. So I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hate talking about myself.
I know. I'm aware. I've been working you pretty hard. Now, I have two reasons why I wanted to bring you on today. And the first reason is, the case study thing. Hey, here's a member that's made huge change, and we'll talk about that very briefly. But the second reason why I wanted to bring you on is you are an incredible communicator, getting the most out of your people. You have a system that you follow to make sure people feel appreciated, listened to, cared about. And that has paid dividends in you being staffed and keeping people for many, many years. And I think that's important today where we have labor shortages and people wonder why people don't want to work and why managers aren't communicating with their team very well. And that's really where I want to focus most of our efforts. But to get started, do me a favor, tell people about your restaurant, a little bit about your family history and where you're located.
Well, we're located in Northern California in a town called Grass Valley. There's approximately a little over 13,000 in population. It's a Mexican restaurant. We've been in business for 30 years. So my mom essentially had started the restaurant. Have done 3 remodels. Currently in the wintertime, we seat about 179. And in the summer, we're close to about 240. And, our core values is that we want to bring that home cooked, feeling warm to the bones, family style atmosphere and share that with our community. And I feel like we've done pretty good having established that.
Well, with 30 years in business, and from the years that I've known you, little facts, we've known each other for many, many years. In fact, we worked together at my old company where your mother and your brother came to one of my 3-day workshops. We've kind of dabbled in my old company when I had the software on and off. But we started working back together after years of knowing each other and still staying in communication. Mm-hmm. That in November of 2020, with the pandemic and everything that was going on, there were new challenges for restaurants. And it was kind of your wake-up call and time to say, hey, we need to really take this seriously. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on at the time and why you reached out to kind of start to work together again? Because we had done it before, but it really didn't stick.
Yeah, so for the last 12 years, I essentially have been running the restaurant without my mom really involved. And since COVID hit, it it just really became evident that I can't, something's got to change. We're either going to end up closing our doors. The restaurant where we can only do takeout. How are we going to generate this money? We have a whole bunch of employees. What do we do? And this is a whole new arena that nobody has ever been in. And how we would do pricing on a menu is we just shoot off prices off our foot and go, okay, I think we should charge $20 for this. And then maybe this will help with the labor and how much we're paying our employees. And you can't operate business like that any longer. And so I was watching actually your YouTubes and trying to get as much information as I could, which is all great, but I needed something more. I needed your brains to help me navigate what we were in, essentially. And so I called you, and it was actually peace of mind hearing your voice because you're so enthusiastic, and you held me accountable just out of that first interview. And how it felt, David, is that even though I called you, it was like you were interviewing me because you wanted to find out what's my thinking? Where do I want to go? What are we doing now? And so I think it was a good, are we going to be a good mutual fit for one another? Because you're going to hold me account, and you
Right.
want to make sure I'm going to do what you say.
And I didn't want to put us in a situation again where we have, again, on and off worked together in the old company. Again, that was software driven. So it's a little bit different, but you still had me as a coach. I didn't want to waste the money. I didn't want to put you in a spot where you weren't ready to take action, because that's the most amazing thing for a lot of people. They don't understand. You can't be ready for this kind of change until you are ready. I can't make you ready. I can't shake you. I can't yell, scream, get you enthusiastic or whatever. You can buy into the idea of change, but to actually implement it, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I suck, I create work. And then the biggest thing is the culture change. We're going to do things differently. And people going, wait, you don't understand. That's not how we do it. You go, no, now there's change coming and it's uncomfortable, but it can truly make a difference. And I kind of want to fast forward us a little bit. And in a moment, I'll ask you to kind of share maybe some of your unexpected changes that you got from working together. But to summarize, you made a lot of change. One of the biggest changes you made was following my new program, and I realized that you needed an implementer. And you've got Emily, who came on as a manager in your helping you on this journey and made her way to general manager, but she was your implementer, somebody who gets shit done. And how important that extra person is. As entrepreneurs, we have so many things to do to operate the business, from making payroll to marketing to accounting, and you name it. And so having an implementer was huge for you. With that said, in a year's time, you made incredible progress. And if I may, I'm going to share some of your numbers. When you first said, hey, we didn't know if we we're going to close our doors, I want people to understand you were a $3 million business. I mean, it's not a mom and pop little taqueria that doesn't have volumes. You are a staple in the community. People come back to you generation after generation after generation. And so as a $3 million business in 2020, you finished a year, and well, quite honestly, it struggled. It may have been in the red or slightly in the black. But 2021, after implementing the systems, having Emily help you put this in place, changing your role to become the leader your restaurant needs. If I remember, I'm looking at my notes here, you did $3.68 million and you made $626,000. What kind of change is that to go from, increasing your volumes, but blowing up, going from losing or breaking even to actually making a lot of money? What was that like?
Well, first off, I would attribute to our labor was astronomical.
Yeah.
And before using your systems, all of our dollars were going out the door just to labor. We'd actually, if you remember, schedule the same crew for a Friday night that we would on a Monday night,
Yeah.
and do a fraction of the business. And so once we started using your system, we have saved money on labor, food costs, and we started getting creative. So now that I started having a little bit more free time
Yeah.
with using the program, we're able to become more creative. And actually, just this week alone, we fired our marketing team, and now are actually using Pop Menu,
Yeah.
and which we're very excited about. We found about Pop Menu through one of your other actually restaurant owners that you work with, and I love the community in your in your program, because we're able to bounce off ideas
Right.
and ask questions. So that helped out. Yeah, and I mean, you have to really get creative with how to survive. And it was nice also being able to rely on other business owners and what they're doing too. So I hope that answers your question.
100%. So again, because we're trying to condense this, because I want to get into the meat of communication,
Yeah.
making people feel appreciated. But I've got one more question for you, and that is, what were your unexpected changes or things that you didn't expect from working together or with the other restaurant owners and having that community? What didn't you foresee that really was a benefit for you?
I'm going to tell you my time. First off, is that when I called you and made that first initial call, I felt, okay, now it's, pound to the ground. I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to now have to use your system and now create even more work for me. And I'm going to have to pass it all down. And it's been none of that. I have now more free time than I've ever had before. And so definitely time. I have more time with my family. I'm now doing another competition, which was not going to happen because that creates a lot of time as well.
Yeah, going in fitness competitions require a shit ton of dedication. You've got to have the time to work out, or it doesn't work. So you've got time with everybody now, and you've got more systems in place. You're making more money. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome, no?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the systems, having those systems in place. I don't even know how we survived the last 28 years not having those systems, but it is so easy because, if you're having issues with your staff, you now have a place to point to instead of saying, well, let's talk about what you're not doing. You now have proof. You now have check marks that they're doing on their Jolt system that we absolutely love. Yeah. We have more systems in place. I mean, literally, if we wanted to sell the business, it literally, you can hand it over, which absolutely helps you if you're selling, right? Which is not going to happen. But
no kidding. Yeah, it's not going out of your family. But with that said, and there's still more systems. Like, it's not like you're done. I mean, every month or so we talk about something. Go, hey, we've talked about that. Well, now's the time, and that goes back to you can't force systems in place if you're not ready for them. Yeah. And I always tell people, I don't care how long it takes you, as long as you still work towards putting them in place. It's when we give up and we make excuses and we stop. And that's where our businesses really falter. And that's where I've been so impressed with what you and Emily have done, because you became the leader your restaurant needs. Emily made sure the shit got done and that it stays in place. And doesn't mean we don't have hiccups. Doesn't mean there aren't times, oh shit, we haven't been looking at that for a while and we've got to re-implement the system and do. That's the nature of the restaurant business. But the change has been amazing. It's also wonderful to see, on the side note, not only have you gotten the free time, but Emily now has managers and she's starting to see free time and be able to shut down her phone. And that's really powerful because you created that. You did the work, meaning the two of you, but you led it. And that's huge. Mm-hmm. Now let's switch gears. Let's get out of the numbers side and what have you. And now let's talk about the people side, because this is something that for years I've known you do extremely well. But during the labor shortage and on the group coaching calls, it's really become more and more apparent that this is a skill set that every restaurant owner should learn from you. And that is how to communicate with your team members, that they feel appreciated, they stick around, they feel valued, that that is probably the number one thing restaurateurs and managers especially need to learn how to do, because people don't want to be in our business. They've been treated like shit for so many years, paid too little, flexibility taken away, and now there's a reckoning. The labor force is telling us, you got to change, but this is not a change for you. Can you talk a little bit about how you communicate with your team members and why it's so successful?
Yeah, and I would say a mantra that I follow or tell myself is that if you want to grow the business, you have to grow the people. And that is listening to what's going on for them. In this business, which I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks this way, is you do become a therapist, but it's how you communicate to your staff is what's going to make the biggest difference. When they come to my office, or somebody comes to my office, or even has a quick question when I'm on the floor, is I make sure that I give them my undivided attention. Like, I am completely present with them, and they're letting me know what's going on for them, or if they're excited and want to celebrate that they just got this $200 tip off a table. I really feel it's so important to be able to value your staff that way.
So you keyed in on something that I think is extremely important, and that's being present. Mm-hmm. Can you describe what does present mean to you? To me, I know what it means, and I do my very best as an entrepreneur to be present with my family. I'm not really good at it sometimes. That cell phone comes up and I pick it up and I'm off somewhere else, even though we're having a conversation. I'm not 100% present, and I get called out for it. And how important it is to truly be present. Can you describe what you mean by present so people can understand?
Yeah, and I think this is a great practice too, is to have with your family as well. So, what present would look like to me is if I'm talking to an employee and they're saying something to me that's important to them, and then say I'm downstairs and somebody else is trying to get my attention, I literally will have to say, can you give me a minute? I'm talking to Christina, and right now, I'll talk to you in a bit, but I'm interested in what she has to say. So it's having my eyes focused on them. Eye-to-eye contact's important. Your phone's not in your hand. You're not looking around. You're not staring at your watch. You're literally in that moment with them. And when two people literally are coming together like that, eye-to-eye contact, that they're feeling heard, understood, listened to, all of that. And that's so important, because I don't think that, like you said, with even our families, we don't even give ourselves that with them. And I think it's an important practice, especially now with mental health illness, and we need each other.
Yeah, and the truth is, mental health has been an issue in the restaurant business forever. It's just been swept under. We don't talk about it. And that's kind of been here in the States anyway. So if there's a positive of what COVID did, is it brought it to the forefront and said, hey, this is actually normal, and we need to listen to people and get them the help they need. But if you don't actively listen, if you're not present, you'll never recognize they need help, on a side note. And I want to make sure people understand, we didn't call it being present in the old days. I've been doing things for 30 plus years. But when I would talk to an employee, I would do my very best to keep my back to the door, because we all know you start to look at the front door, and now all of a sudden that employee sees, that customer sees you're not being present. And so it's staying engaged with that person, truly actively listening, not just hearing. I think that's really important when we talk about this. So what are some of the benefits of taking the time to listen, to be an active listener, to understand what your employees are telling you? What are some of the benefits to that?
Well, I think having reliable employees is a huge benefit. I feel like you want to be interested in what they're having to say. Is something else I wanted to point to too. Is not only just listening, but interested. And I feel, because I do give that to the staff, that having reliable employees, if I need somebody to work last minute, they're always a yes. they don't feel taken advantage of. They'll even want to come in to work if they're not feeling 100%, just because they know that we actually value them being here and they want to be a part of the team. They don't want to let anybody down. And I think it also makes us a priority employer for our for our staff. And I think they actually do tell other people, because they'll say, hey, my brother's looking for a job, or my sister's looking for a job, or my mom's looking for a job, or I have a friend who wants to come work here. Can we interview him? So I know that we wouldn't have people that are close to them want to be able to work unless we were that kind of employer.
Are there any times you've had a conversation or listened that you've discovered something that kind of set you back, went, wow, this person needs my assistance, whether financially or time, or really an ear because of family issues, and if so, what have been some of the unexpected benefits of that?
Yeah, somebody told me yesterday that I have a bleeding heart. And I'm like, a bleeding heart? What does that mean? I didn't realize that means that you care a lot.
So much. Yes.
And so, your question is, so I had an employee actually just this week. It's Christmas time. Inflation is super high.
Yep.
And he said, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, okay. He goes, I have 2 vans. My wife drives one and I drive one, but we have a flat tire. Now I have to drive hers and I'm on a spare. He lives an hour away. He doesn't have any extra money to pay for a tire.
Yeah.
And, it's Christmas time. He has 6 kids. And so he goes, can I borrow some money and I'll pay you back the minute. And, sometimes we say to ourselves, okay, well, we know how that's going to go.
Right.
And so we let him borrow some money, and immediately he paid his tire, got his tire, got some extra things that he needed for his family, and said, hey, I'm going to pay it back to you immediately. I don't want to make payments, but I want to pay it back immediately. And I said, hey, no problem. You can actually make payments if that works out better for you. And I think, what was your question?
What was the added benefits, the unexpected benefits? So like all of a sudden you heard a problem, you helped them out, and it doesn't always work out when people want money. You've got to listen pretty hard. Sometimes people are takers. Yeah. This is obviously not somebody who was a taker. This is a true benefit to you as a company as well, because if an hour away can't get to work, you lose an employee, right? It's a double-edged sword. What do you think the benefit is of you coming to the rescue and allowing him to borrow that money and seeing the energy he wants to put to say, I'm going to pay you back?
Yeah. Well, the benefit that I see here is that he's someone who, if we were short somebody called in sick the next day and he was not scheduled, I would say, hey, Jose, I have this open opportunity for you to come in and work out. He would do it. It is like scratching your back, and I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. And I think in this restaurant business, that happens a lot. And I think it's important for us to be able to support our staff and listen and feel out for what it is that they need.
So you and I initially talked about this probably a year plus ago. No kidding. Again, I've been working hard to get you to do this for me. And that was, I was asking how you taught others to do this, because you had been helping Emily, your now GM, implementer, on to do the same thing with the team, because it really mattered. So this is trainable, like learning how to be an active listener to truly empathize with your employees. This is a trainable skill, because all too often we've got new managers, young managers, who only know how to communicate on their cell phone, texting right next to each other. This is trainable.
It really is. And Emily was telling me a few weeks ago that the staff says, hey, you sound like Gina. Right, Emily? Yeah, she, She said that the staff tells her sometimes she's telling me she sounds like me, but
Are, are,
it is trainable
Are there
because
any
it's.
and are there any tips, maybe a one, two, three things that somebody could do to start them on a path to truly sit down and say, I'm being an active listener, I'm gathering data, I'm making this employee feel appreciated and moving our business forward at the same time? Like, what would be some of the tips you'd share?
Uh, First would be to actively listen. So, if Emily and I would start with your most important person. So if it's your implementer or your general manager, have them be the one that, because they're the ones who are communicating with the rest of the staff. So it's so important to get them on board. So with Emily, I we'll communicate and talk. I make sure, number one, that I'm 100% available to her. So if she calls me, I'm at home, at the gym, whatever, she texts me, I respond immediately. So I think that's one of the tips, as I would say, is be available. The other thing would be to listen. Listen to what's important to her. Now, sometimes what she's telling me isn't necessarily what she's actually feeling. So you almost have to read between the lines or listen between the lines. So you want to hear, what is it that she's actually trying to communicate? Is she upset? Is she frustrated? Is it just this particular session? Is she constantly complaining about this certain thing? And I'm like, why hasn't she fixed it? Well, maybe I'm not actually listening because she's having to complain about it all the time.
Right.
Maybe I haven't helped her come up with a solution. So I would say to listen to what's actually happening when she's communicating, the emotion behind it, I would
Right.
say. Listen to the emotion behind it. And, I'm going to say this again. I think also being interested and present, being present to what she has to say. And even though I may not agree with what she's saying, I have to say, well, what would have her say that? What's the value in what she's telling me right now? What is it that she's trying to communicate? So I ask myself those questions when she's needing to really talk to me about something.
And then again, she's doing the same thing with her team members. And the added benefit, again, from an outsider's perspective, is you keep employees for a long, long time, like years upon years. It's very rare that you've got turnover. And if you do, it's usually a new person that just hasn't cut the mustard yet. Because it's, and honestly, your restaurant has been around for so long that you've got to fit the culture pretty quick. Like if you don't fit the culture, you're not going to make it there. But if you do,
Right.
like it's a very much a family atmosphere. You're a part of the team. You care about your people. And I guess bleeding heart, I would call you a social worker, not a bleeding heart. But that's a whole nother thing. Kind of going backwards. Knowing what you know as far as communication and making people feel valued, knowing what you know now about systems, your budgeting, the tools that you put in place, what would be some advice you'd give somebody who was listening to us saying, I haven't started the journey on systems yet. I think, I've got a challenge with my people, because that's the real truth of it. The systems I teach are easy. It's the people part that's the challenge. And that's why you were able to get such results. It's not just that Emily implemented, it's that you got your people on board to understand. What would you tell somebody who's listening to us going, man, should I start this journey? It sounds like a lot of work on systems, and it sounds really hard to say, I'm going to start to be patient and listen to my people, actually make the time to be active listening and make them feel valued, because right now I may feel taken advantage of. What would you tell somebody? How would they approach this journey?
So, are you referring to as if somebody's who's wanting to start with your program?
With my program, on the journey on their own, it's just time to make change, right? Because that's really what we talk about. Whether not everybody's going to work with me, I'm not the right fit for everybody, but the journey has to happen for everyone.
It does. When I was in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, I went to this amazing restaurant, and ironically, I happened to sit next to this guy who owned 5 restaurants.
No kidding.
And yeah. And I'm like, are you the actual owner? Are you a corporation? Like, talk to me. And he said, no, I'm one of the owners. I'm the main one who takes care of all 5. And I said, well, how's your restaurants going? Like, this is exciting. I have one. And he said, I'm struggling. And he goes, the labor is just, it's killing us. It is killing us. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm honestly stressed out about it. And I was like, oh no, Gina, here comes diarrhea to the mouth. Because I'm telling all about your system. And we're having a couple cocktails. And I'm like, I almost feel stuck sometimes because there's so much I thought, I want to say.
Yeah.
But, I said, I'm working with this amazing guy named David Scott Peters. You should look him up. Their system, it's not just a system for your restaurant, but it's a lifestyle of how to be able to be successful, because you can have a business plan, and that business plan is going to show you how to start up, but you need something that's going to carry you through your business till the end of time.
Right.
And there's nothing like it out there. There isn't. And, I felt so bad for this man who was so successful. So hopefully he called you it. I said, you want to be successful in your restaurants, that you need to start putting systems in place. And there's actually a way to be able to calculate how much labor you need given the amount of sales you're doing.
Crazy systems that work. And oh, by the way, I appreciate it. I'm hearing news stories all throughout this. We talk all the time, and I'm hearing news stories. And what's interesting is I love you to death, and I think you, as well as other Mastery Plus members or RTI members, when they have success, they want to evangelize. And I swear, sometimes people think you're part of a cult. This is a cult. No, yeah, making money, having a life is a cult. I'm in it all day long, right?
Right. Yeah. In fact, I have to tell you though, because that guy that I was sitting next to, I'm like, I go, are you in, like, what are you doing? Are you here for a convention as well? And he said, yeah, I'm learning about, bookkeeping and stuff. And I'm like, you're in the wrong convention. You need to be with our guy. David and I, like, we're turning the world in the results of being a restaurant business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. If there was, first of all, I want to thank you. This was like pulling teeth to get you here. I cannot tell this enough, that everybody listening, that this was a big deal for me to get you actually to do this. I think the world of you, world of Emily, your restaurant, what you've done, your mom, what she's created. I love what you do as far as making sure people feel appreciated. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here. With that said, I don't want to take much more of your time. Is there anything we didn't talk about, or anything you'd like to share, or advice you'd give somebody listening to us that we didn't touch on before we go?
Let's see. What I do have to say that I'm a big advocate of yours, David, and I know it's come through on the podcast. I feel, for anybody new who's listening that's on the fence of whether or not they should join, I would say 100%, like, if you want to be successful and grow your business, that you have the best program that's on the market. And we have gone through other programs before,
right,
but there's nothing like yours.
Well, I appreciate you very much. And again, thank you for taking time to do this. I hope everybody listening to us understands that what you shared with us can truly make a huge difference. And the beautiful part, it is trainable, it's learnable. And that's incredibly important. In today's day and age, with the labor shortage and the cost of labor, having good people, having them respect you, having them appreciate you and be appreciated means they stick around, they do a better job. It's just invaluable information. And I want to thank you again.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, David.
Hey, that was an awesome episode. I want to thank you for taking the time to take action on building a better, more prosperous restaurant. Before you go, I want to give you these 3 thoughts. 1, by combining leadership and taking action with systems, and training being checked by accountability, you are on your way to creating prosperity for you and your restaurant. 2, I have something I need from you. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. By leaving us a review, other restaurant pros seeking out this information are able to find it. I read the reviews, and hearing how this information has benefited you does wonders for me. And 3, if you find any of the discussions helpful, share them. The more restaurant pros who have access to them, the better we become as an industry. For more restaurant resources or to get in contact with me, connect with me at davidscottpeters.com. Be passionate about what you're doing, be persistent, but more importantly, become better and help everyone around you become better, and your restaurant is going to kick some ass. If you're tired of not being able to leave your restaurant because no one else knows how to run it, I want to make sure you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can leave your restaurant. It is possible to build a team of people who know how you want the restaurant to run. With these trained and responsible people in place, you can give yourself time away. What would you do if you had time away from your restaurant? Would you sleep better? Would your relationships improve? Would you feel more relaxed? These are all things you deserve to experience as a business owner. It's why we own our own businesses. If you would like to learn how to own a restaurant that doesn't depend on you to be successful, click the link in the description to watch a free training course that teaches you exactly what you have to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to get my weekly tips and watch these 2 videos to get more information and guidance for running a successful restaurant.